Variables on both sides. Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Variables on both sides. So yesterday we talked about multi-step equations. We're still on multi-step equations, so we're going to have to do multiple things before we actually start solving. Right? Multi-step. So the first thing we always need to do now that we know that this is a thing, you need to look for parentheses. And maybe there are no parentheses, but if there are parentheses, the first thing we should ask ourselves, do I need to distribute? If the answer is no, because there are no parentheses, then we move on. But if the answer is yes, because there are parentheses, then we have to use the distributive property. After we distribute, we need to look, do we need to combine like terms? And the trick is with this combine like terms, they need to be on the same side. They need to be on the same side. So the first thing we need to do is we need to simplify it. We need to distribute. We need to combine like terms. But my problem is, and I'm going to skip 3 lines. We'll put more information up here, but skip 3 lines. This is what I'm talking about. So this problem, obviously, is not a one-step problem, correct? This problem, obviously, is not a 2-step problem. This is going to be a multi-step problem, correct? I mean, it's got some stuff to it. It's got some baggage we're going to have to clear up. But we can do this, because if I follow these steps, if I go through and I say, okay, the first thing I have to ask myself, do I need to distribute? If there are parentheses, and I look down here, and yes, I do need to distribute. Now, I'm telling you this is a Mrs. Long key to success. I'm going to draw a line down my equal sign, because right in the beginning especially, this is going to help me see the difference. And I'm going to distribute, so I'm going to take that plus 3, that positive 3, and I'm going to draw an arrow to the Q, and I'm going to draw an arrow to the negative 4. So I need to distribute because there were parentheses. So that means 3Q, correct? And then 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. And then that 5 just comes down to the front. And since that's a positive, I put a plus sign. And nothing happened on the right side, so I'll just leave it there. Okay, so step number 1 was distribute if there were parentheses. And yes, there were parentheses, so I distributed, correct? Then I look at step number 2, which is combine like terms. But I've added over here if they're on the same side. So I'm only looking at one side at a time. So if I start with the left side, is there anything that can go together on the left side? Tochiku, what can go together? Perfect. That positive 5 is going to go with that negative minus, right? Same thing. 12. So I'll rewrite the problem. I'll put 3Q first. Doesn't matter. Do you agree? And then 5 minus 12, negative 7, equals 2Q plus 2. Because on the right side, nothing can go together, correct? There are no like terms on the right side. So I distribute if there are parentheses. Then I look for common or like terms, correct? But they have to be on the same side. So you have to do each side. Because now I look at it and I have variables on both sides. So it really does not matter which one you move. But I have to take one of these variables and pick it up and put it on the other side, correct? And anytime something moves from one side of the equal sign to the other side of the equal sign, you use inverse operations. I will tell you a trick. It works most of the time. Negative numbers tend to be the worst thing in the world to us because we forget and we drop signs and we forget our rules and all of that stuff. It's easy to make a mistake with a negative number. It's not always going to work. But if you move the smaller variable using inverse operations. If you move the smaller variable, you are drastically decreasing your chance of having a negative number. If you move the smaller variable using inverse operations. So if I look, variable on the left is 3q, variable on the right is 2q. Which one's smaller? 2q. Pretend that just said 2. How would I move the 2? I would subtract it, right? I'm moving the whole thing. I'm not just moving the 2, I'm moving the 2q. It all goes together. If I divide by 2, does the q move? No. I have to move the whole thing. So I'm going to subtract 2q from this side. And I'm going to subtract 2q from this side. Move the smaller variable using inverse operations. So now I have 3q minus 7. Oh, wait, I'm going to do minus 2q. What's 3q minus 2q? Could I just put q? That minus 7 did not change. Equals 2. And after I move my smaller variable using inverse operations, I can solve the equation. I can solve the equation. This is now just a one-step equation, correct? I mean, maybe it's a two-step, or maybe it's a one-step. I'm going to add 7, and I get q equals 9. Yes, sir?
How do you get just q when it's 3q minus 2q?
So it could be 1q, right? But 1q and q are the same thing.
Oh.
Right? If I say I ate an apple for lunch, it is the same thing as saying I ate 1 apple for lunch, correct?
Yeah.
You can check it. I know that q is 9. So if I go up here to my original problem and I type in 5 plus 3 parentheses, 9 minus 4, close parentheses, and I get an answer of 20. Now I'm going to check this side. 2 times 9, because q is 9, plus 2, what should it equal? So I know my answer's right. Let's do another one. 2k minus 7, 1 plus 8k equals 3k minus 7. So again, we have to go through our steps. Maybe you do not need to distribute. Maybe you do not need to distribute. Maybe you do. In this problem, we have to distribute. after you distribute, you need to ask yourself, do I need to combine like terms? Maybe you don't. Maybe you do. But you need to get all of that simplifying. Simplifying means make it easier out of the way before you start working. So do I need to distribute? Yes. -7 times 1 is -7. And -7 times positive 8k is -56k. That 2k comes down, and do I need to add anything else? No, because I already had a negative sign, which now changes to a minus, right? Same thing. And then the right side is good to go. All right. Distribute, combine like terms. Yep, I've got 2k and -56k. 2 minus 56 is -54k minus 7 equals 3k minus 7. Do you agree? I'm going to move my smaller variable. Which one's smaller? -54k. If you move that 3k by subtracting 3k and subtracting 3k, you're okay. That's fine. You'll get the right answer. You'll just have to deal with a negative, which is okay. But most of us prefer to have positive values instead of negative values. It does not matter which one you move. You will get the right answer. I like to move the smaller variable. So the opposite, or the inverse of -54k is positive 54k. Positive 54k. Which leaves me with -7 equals 57k minus 7. Do you agree? Now, how many steps? It's a two-step problem. What are we going to move first? -7. How do you move it? +7. -7 plus 7 is 0. Equals 57k. Now what? Divide by 57. What is 0 divided by 57? 0. K equals 0. I can check it. Go up here. 2 times 0 minus 7 parentheses 1 plus 8 times 0. Right? I put 0 in for my k's, and I get an answer of -7. Then I'm going to test this one. 3 times 0 minus 7, and I get an answer of, you guys, we did it right. So, distribute if parentheses. Combine like terms that are on the same side. You could skip 1 and 2, right? These are only when necessary. Then you move the smaller variable. You can move whichever one you want, but the smaller variable lessens the chance of negative numbers. And then you can solve the equation.